no one would be here this Friday evening, and lo and behold, here we have so many people here in our lovely chapel to give thanks to all that we have enjoyed, not only in life but in these past few days. I want to welcome my sister and her husband all the way from California. They're in the back, and just very delighted that they're here and that we could spend our Thanksgiving together. I'd like to call on Jack and Amy to light the Shabbat candles. Would you do us that honor? This is Jack and Amy are moving next week to a much smaller venue. They're moving to Atlanta, Georgia. So we want to thank you. It's on page 120.
As these Shabbat candles give light to all who behold them, so may we by our lives give light to all who behold us.
As their brightness reminds us of the generations of Israel who have kindled light, so may we in our own day be among those who kindle light.
Baruch atah Adonai. No, it's here.
Open it up.
It's a real fancy round box.
Open it up. Jack, slide out the box. Slide out the box.
All right.
Slide out of the box. You could have fooled us. We did that a long time.
You know, these doctors think they know everything. Excuse
Blow
me.
it out,
Almost had to go get one.
Jack, just because you're leaving, don't burn down the place.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kishon b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu b'chagah ner shel Shabbat. Blessed are you, Adonai, our God, sovereign of the universe, who has us with mitzvot, commanding us to kindle the light of Shabbat.
Amen. Thank you. Let us begin by closing our eyes and reflecting inwardly on the term Shabbat vayinafash. God rested, God's soul, so to speak, was refreshed and restored. So too may our Shabbat service and the day bring a sense of inner peace and restoration of our hearts and minds from our weekly endeavors. Let us just take a moment and close our eyes and let go of perhaps a busy day, and let's just meditate and allow the Shabbat the spirit of Shabbat come and embrace us. And we continue our reading from the book of Psalms each week. We're now on Psalm number 19. The heavens declare the glory of God, and the firmament showeth his handiwork. Day unto day uttereth speech, and night into night revealeth knowledge. There is no speech, there are no words, neither is their voice heard. Their line is gone out through all the earth, and their words to the end of the world. In them hath he set a tent for the sun, which is as a bridegroom coming out of his chamber, and rejoiceth as a strong man to run his course. His going forth is from the end of the heaven, and his circuit until the ends of it, and there is nothing hid from the heat thereof. The law of the Lord is perfect, restoring the soul. The testimony of the Lord is sure, making wise the simple. The precepts of the Lord are right, rejoicing the heart. The commandment of the Lord is pure, enlightening the eyes. The awe of the Lord is clean, enduring forever. The ordinances of the Lord are true, they are righteous altogether. More to be desired are they than gold, yea, than much fine gold, sweeter also than honey and the honeycomb. Moreover, by them is thy servant warned, in keeping of them there is great reward. Who can discern errors? Clear thou me from hidden faults. Keep back thy servant also from presumptuous sins, that they may not have dominion over me. Then shall I be faultless. I shall be clear from great transgression. That the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart be acceptable before thee, O Lord, my rock and my redeemer. Let us continue now with the Hide Matov, page 124. Excuse me, page 128, excuse me.
Please join with me.
Continue now with Lachadodi, come my beloved, that is the children of Israel, all of us today, to welcome the bride, which is considered to be the Shabbat. Lachadodi is on page 138 and page 139. We chant the first two verses, and then verses 1 and 2, and then we rise when we come to verse 9. We do verses 1, 2, and then 9 on page 139. And we remain standing. We turn to page 146 for the Baruch. For those who are perhaps new to our service, I just wanted to point out, of course, the book opens from left to right because Hebrew is read from right to left. You'll notice on the left column, say on page 146, some funny looking English. That is the transliteration. That is the English transliteration of the Hebrew. And on the opposite side of the page, on say page 147, are liberal readings that try to capture the essence of what the Hebrew represents. Page 146, the Baruch. You may be seated. Let us join together on page 151. The middle reading, Wisdom and Wonder. Together. Wisdom and wonder, passion and instruction, story and symbol, all these things your Torah gives to us. And the more we devote ourselves to it, the more it grows and gives. What could be a truer token of your abiding love than this holiest of your works and the living language that gives it form? Baruch atah Adonai, Ohev Amo Yisrael. Please rise for the declaration of our faith, the Shema Yisrael, page 152 and page 153, followed by the V'ahavta on page 154.
sit in your house, when you walk by the way, when you lie down, and when you rise, and when you rise.
You may be seated, please. And let us continue now with the beautiful English of the Hashkivenu. Let God cause us to lie down in peace and allow us to waken up to life on the morrow. Beautiful reading, page 161. Let us join in prayer. Give us a place to rest. Give us a place to rest, Adonai, our God. Bring us into shelter in the soft, long evening shadows of your truth. For with you are true protection and safety, and in your presence are acceptance and gentle love. Watch over us as we go forth. Prepare for us as we return. Spread over us your shelter of peace, over all we love, over our Jerusalem and yours. Baruch atah Adonai, haporei sukat shalom aleinu, ve'al kol amo Yisrael, ve'al Yerushalayim. And we continue now with the joyous Yismachu in the bottom of page 162. Those who keep the Shabbat shall rejoice in your glory. Page 162 at the bottom of the page.
This is joyous, so please join along with the parts that sound familiar. You're fine. This gives everyone time to prep, so we can sing with joy. Shomer
rise now for the tefillah, beginning on page 164 and continuing through to page 170. And we're going to continue in silent meditation. If you wish to continue in the prayer book, that would be from page 172 or page 173, all the way through to page 180. That's one way. There are some beautiful readings to certainly reflect on. You may be seated, of course, or just in your own silent meditations and in your own spiritual thoughts. We continue now our service on page 180, the Oseh Shalom. Shabbat Shalom to everyone. It's wonderful to have my sister here this evening, all the way from California. I'm her proud little brother. Just for the record, I'm going to embarrass her, but I don't care. She served in the U.S. Navy as a commander for 20 years, is that correct? Yeah, for 20 years she did 2 tours of Iraq.
One tour in Iraq, one tour on the Gulf.
On the Gulf. Yeah. And she was a flight surgeon on the George Washington in the Pacific. So we're really, I'm so happy that you're here this evening. And her husband, who made all of this, who made all of that possible, and was such a tremendous support. It is a tremendous support throughout that time. So this week is the story of Rebekah, Isaac, Jacob, and Esau, perhaps one of the most difficult stories in the Bible. Why? Because we know how it ends with Jacob's deception of his father Isaac to receive the blessing of the firstborn. But what I want to do this evening is to take you back to the initial struggle that Jacob and Esau had. And the biblical narrative tells us, Vayitritzu habanim b'kelbech, that the 2 of them pursued each other, from the Hebrew word ratzah, which is to run, larutz, to run, but really in this context, that they wrestled with one another in the womb. So I'm going to fast forward because this text, at least from a historical standpoint, is finished around 525 BCE. That's just from a historical perspective. If you believe that the Torah was given by God to Moses at Mount Sinai, the narrative is probably 1250 BCE. But regardless, it was quite a long time ago when the Torah reached its final form. But that's not what I wanted to focus on. That's just background. What I want to focus on is how our tradition began to understand these stories in the time and place that they lived, and yet they saw the Torah as being universal, as being something eternal that would continue on and on and on. So they did something really unique, particularly after the destruction of the Second Temple. They created a form of literature that's called midrash, which is a deep, penetrating and exploration of biblical verse or term. And they go in order, and they're quite creative. It somewhat parallels, if you will, the New Testament in some of the way that literature is written as parable and not meant to be taken necessarily literally. However, our rabbis, particularly living in a post-destruction of the Second Temple Israel, which is 70 CE all the way through to today, lived under occupation. They lived at a time when Jews were being dispersed all over the world, of their world. So how do they see, particularly this verse, and it's very interesting, they saw the struggle not in terms of a physical struggle, but they saw it as a struggle between two types of people. One was spiritual in nature, the other was more materialistic, if you will, more idolatrous. So how did they create a midrash on that? Well, whenever Rebecca would walk past a house of idol worship, which of course was very prevalent during the early Roman period, Esau would run. She would feel Esau move in her room. And whenever she would pass by a Beit Knesset, a synagogue, if you will, they did have synagogues in those days, Jacob would. There's also another midrash that says that they fought each other in the womb. They fought each other. One was spiritual in nature, and the other one was, if you will, today, if you want to call idolatry, was entirely materialistic. And so the interesting part is that they chose to put those ideas in the womb. In other words, in the person herself, right? So that in some ways within us, there's that constant tension, that constant struggle between the universal, between the good side of us and the more difficult side of us. And we can extrapolate that in terms of humanity. All we have to do is look at the world today. There are so many wonderful things happening that, of course, do not get reported, that are not seen. Yesterday, we all celebrated Thanksgiving. And before that, we participated in a food drive that gave, really, for at least 30 people, a wonderful Thanksgiving that they otherwise would not have had. All of those things is very minor in the scheme of things, and yet very important in the scheme of things. So there's that part of us. But then all one has to do is look at the news and see the wars that are going on, the protests that are going on, the strife between peoples, the strifes within families, and so forth. And so the rabbis looked at it not just in terms of the literalness of it, but they looked at it as a kind of struggle within each of us and the struggles within us as a people. And that's the challenge. So how do we, the question for us is, how do we deal with that? How do we ourselves wrestle with that? How do we lean towards the good side, our good nature itself? And how do we give voice, but constructively, to our material needs? How do we remain sensitive to the poor, as our Torah commands us, as our tradition commands us? How do we strive for justice in the world, and at the same time take care of ourselves? How does Israel balance between being in the real world and having to do things that we're not particularly proud of, but because they're a country like everybody else, they have to survive, right? They have to do whatever it is that they have to do, and yet we want our country, Israel, to be a moral nation. How do we deal with all of that? What's the pathway? Any ideas? Any thoughts?
brought up. I mean, as Jews were brought up, a lot of us from the beginning, from little children, was the idea of goodness, giving, being able to realize good from bad. Not necessarily we do it all the time, but at least opens our eyes to allow us to see what's right, what's wrong. And I personally think the most important thing for people doing right is their conscience. If you don't have a good conscience, you can do lots of bad things. If you have a conscience, you don't sleep at night, you can't live with yourself. I think that's part of the upbringing, and that's Judaism helps that. And I guess all religions do. I mean, if you're into that, I mean,
Yeah. Vishinantam Lavanacha, something we just read, right? You shall teach your children. Right? We educate our children. That's why even though we have a small number of children in our religious school, nonetheless, for us as an institution, it's in our constitution that we have to educate our children. Morale, one thing I learned while I was at Dartmouth was you can't, just because you have a high SAT score, and just because you're really smart, and you have great grades, and you get into an Ivy League institution, does not mean that your moral development is as high as your SAT scores. I say that from firsthand experience. These same students who were accepted into Dartmouth, some of them used the N-word when they would see someone walking, a fellow student walking down the street. Veiled anti-Semitic comments, high SAT score, or complete insensitivity towards those who were less fortunate, and not understanding what a great privilege it was to be at such a school and learning. So I came away from that experience with the conclusion that we can never take our moral development of the next generation for granted. I'm not talking about, and we can come down on different sides on all kinds of issues, for sure. But fundamental goodness, fundamental decency is of paramount importance. And who's going to be the leader of the Jewish people? Is it going to be Esau, who is, he's described as an idolater? He's described as the patriarch of Rome, right? That's how he's described in the rabbinic literature. And Rome was the enemy of the Jewish people, obviously, right?
well, God was smart. He knew. He said right away. He said that Jacob was going to be the leader, and not Esau.
Yeah. Which raises, yeah. The other way, I think another way that we do that is how we lean towards the good side and try to take a break from the day-to-day struggles that are on the outside, let alone the struggles that are in the womb, right? Is like what we did yesterday, those people that took time to be with their family and to be with loved ones and to feel a sense of gratitude, a sense of thankfulness that of all that we have, that's so easy in the course of time to kind of just take it for granted. But to be with family, to be with loved ones, I think, and to express that love, I think that's another one. And I'll make one last sales pitch and then I'll stop. The other way is what we're doing tonight, those of you who came tonight, to come to the temple and to pray and to be in touch. I think one of the major purposes of prayer is to, not so much whether to make communication with God, but to get in touch with those things that are most important in life, those things that make life really wonderful and make life purposeful and make life meaningful. Because in the day-to-day, we sometimes lose that. And to come to a quiet place, to come to a sanctuary, to be led in prayer by our wonderful cantorial soloist and our pianist, creates an atmosphere where we can really have an opportunity to reflect on the most important things in life, which is the love that we have for one another, and the love that we have and appreciation we have for life. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
Thank you for that beautiful Chopin prelude. It's beautiful. Thank you. We continue now with the Misha Berach prayer, the prayer for healing, page 371. This week we observe the This week we pray for the healing of Rhoda Bennett, Harold H. Fink, Lori Weisberg, David Cherniak, Phyllis Feibelman, Dr. John Johnson, Mark and Hetty Blinderman, Elise Zeman, Jennifer and Amy Sundberg, Pam Fisher, Bettina Prager, Mark Schoenfeld, Alice Glass, Margene Rubin, Elizabeth Kaiser, Alice Schoenfeld, Dr. Margaret Moore Nadler, Sheila Ross, James McGinnis, Mike Thornton, Nicole Appleman Deal, Catherine McDonald. Is there anyone in need of healing that you wish to say to join this list?
Julia is.
Thank you. Anyone on Zoom? And let us rise for the Aleinu, page 586. You may be seated. This week we observed the yard sites of Robert Ilortegui, Sylvia Silverman, Frida Bauer, Carolyn Metzger, Rose Borak, Tanya Palmer, Ellen Eber, Simon J. Buckman, Lou Conrad, Joshua Fetterman, and Stella Rubel Schwander. Is there anyone observing a yard site or saying Kaddish for someone who they wish to remember at this time? The Mourner's Kaddish, page 598. Please rise. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shmei Rabba, Bialma divrach chirutei v'yamlich malchutei, v'chayechon v'yomechon uv'chayei dechol Beit Yisrael, ba'agala uv'zman kari v'imru Amen. Yehi shmei Rabba mevorach le'olam u'le'olmei almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh v'yithadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shemei dekudsha b'richu ve'ela min kol birchata v'shirata tushbachata v'nechamata ta'amiran bi'alma v'imru amen. Yehi shlomo rabamin shemaya v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom bimromav hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. May God, who establisheth peace unto the heavens, grant peace and comfort in the hearts of all who mourn, and let us say, Amen. You may be seated. There is no religious school this Sunday because of Thanksgiving holiday. There is Torah study next Wednesday at 5:30, and all are welcome. And of course, services next Friday. We're not really saying goodbye to the Friedlanders, but they are moving next week to Atlanta, Georgia. And at least from the Bema, there are no words to thank you for the decades and decades and decades of service, not only what the two of you have given so much to our community, but Jack's family as well. It goes back even further. This is one of the great losses for us in some ways, though we know that you'll always be, this will always be your home, and we will miss you, but we'll welcome you at every opportunity, and I'll be sure to call you for your continued guidance and your continued support, and I'm sure many people here will do so as well. So again, we want to acknowledge your decades and just everything that you've done for this community to bring it to where it is today. So thank you. And we're going to continue with the Kiddush. No, it's too cool.
You like to do it? It's high for me, so I'm good. Those are the good notes tonight.
You're good. Okay, we'll try.
Okay.
We're going to do a Kiddush by Kurt Weil. We haven't rehearsed this, but hopefully it'll be okay.
Okay. Can you turn the page? Would someone like to come hold the Kiddush cup?
You can.
Okay, I can put it down? Okay. We need your hands.
She has all of her music. I mean, God forbid the internet should crash.
It's helpful.
Very helpful. Morei puri, it's so exhilarating and so intimidating at the same time to sing with you. It is a real honor.
Absolutely, Rabbi.
It
Thank
really
you.
is. Thank you. We're going to conclude our service now with Shalom Aleichem, and that may be found on page 627.
So some of you have been introduced to this new melody once or twice. So I thought we'd bring it back. It's a beautiful melody of Shalom Aleichem. If you can get the transliteration of the Hebrew in, the melody is not too difficult. So please, please try to sing along with us.
And before we conclude our service, we really do want to thank Molly once again for her beautiful, beautiful chanting, and Christopher Lovely once again for your beautiful accompaniment, which really just, the two of you just enrich our services so, so greatly, and for the wonderful Chopin. Thank you. It's very beautiful.
Thank you, Rabbi. Shalom Aleichem, Malachei HaSharet,
Shabbat Shalom to everyone. Shabbat Shalom.